The heartbreaking death of Princess Diana in 1997 left an unforgettable mark on the world, and for decades her final autopsy report has been at the center of relentless scrutiny, mystery, and speculation. The beloved Princess of Wales's sudden passing shocked millions, and every detail of that tragic night has been dissected, with new questions continuing to emerge even after years have passed. In this video, we will walk you through 15 hidden details from Princess Diana's autopsy report that have sparked widespread debate, fueled countless conspiracy theories, and revealed unexpected insights into the moments leading up to her untimely death. These key findings not only raise eyebrows, but also reshape our understanding of what truly happened. From the official cause of death to the unexplained delays in emergency response, each revelation offers a deeper look into the strange and unsettling circumstances surrounding Diana's final hours. Were there inconsistencies that have been overlooked? Could certain details have changed the outcome? Buckle up and stay tuned, because this journey into the lesser-known truths of Princess Diana's autopsy promises to be both eye-opening and unforgettable. 1. Cause of death. The final autopsy report on Princess Diana confirmed that the primary cause of her death was severe internal injuries sustained in the car crash in Paris. The most critical injury was a rupture to her left pulmonary vein, which led to massive internal bleeding, a condition known as hemothorax. This occurs when blood accumulates in the chest cavity, compressing the lungs and limiting their function. Despite the best efforts of medical professionals, the extent of the internal bleeding made survival impossible. The report noted that even immediate intervention at the scene would likely not have been enough to save her. Alongside the fatal chest injury, the autopsy revealed other significant traumas, including a concussion and multiple fractures to her ribs, arm, and collarbone. While some of these injuries might have been survivable, the pulmonary rupture was catastrophic. The report highlighted that although Princess Diana was still alive when first responders arrived, her condition deteriorated rapidly. She was transported to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, but surgeons were unable to stop the internal bleeding, and she passed away a few hours later. The findings provided a clearer understanding of the medical reasons behind Diana's death and closed much speculation about the circumstances. Ultimately, the crash's violent impact left injuries too severe for even the most advanced medical care to overcome. 2. Blood alcohol levels. A critical revelation from Princess Diana's autopsy report was the complete absence of alcohol or illegal substances in her system at the time of the crash. This finding stood in stark contrast to the results of Henri Paul, the driver, who was found to have alarmingly high blood alcohol levels. His condition raised significant questions about his capacity to operate the vehicle safely and the extent to which his impairment may have contributed to the tragic accident. The autopsy's confirmation that Princess Diana had not consumed any alcohol before the crash was a vital piece of information. It dismissed rumors and speculation suggesting that her own state might have played a role in the unfolding disaster. This detail shielded her reputation from unfounded claims and reinforced the prevailing belief that Princess Diana was purely a victim of the circumstances, rather than an active participant in the events that led to the collision. Moreover, the absence of substances in her system underscored a broader narrative of injustice and misfortune, emphasizing that Diana was not only a public figure but also a person who found herself tragically caught in forces beyond her control. This aspect of the autopsy became central to disproving misleading narratives and reaffirming Diana's innocence in the public eye. Third seat belt controversy. The autopsy report confirmed that neither Princess Diana nor Dodi Fayed was wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash, a detail that quickly became a focal point of controversy. This revelation sparked widespread speculation about whether the outcome might have been different if they had been properly restrained. Experts in crash dynamics suggested that wearing seatbelts could have significantly reduced the severity of their injuries, potentially altering the tragic outcome. Some argued that the impact, though severe, might not have been fatal had the two been securely fastened, as seatbelts are known to lessen the chances of life-threatening trauma during high-speed collisions. However, the autopsy report refrained from speculating on hypothetical scenarios, focusing strictly on the medical facts and documenting the injuries that led to Princess Diana's death. The report maintained an objective stance, avoiding conjecture about what might have been. The absence of seatbelts also fueled persistent conspiracy theories, with some speculating that the seatbelts had been intentionally disabled or tampered with prior to the crash. Despite these rumors, no substantial evidence has ever emerged to validate such claims. Investigations into the wreckage concluded that the seatbelts were in working condition before the accident, but neither Diana nor Dodi had chosen to wear them. This detail remains one of the most debated aspects of the crash, serving as a tragic reminder of the critical role seatbelts play in saving lives, even in high-profile incidents. 4. Pregnancy rumors. After Princess Diana's tragic death, rumors quickly spread suggesting she might have been pregnant at the time of the crash. This speculation gained traction and became a central part of the numerous conspiracy theories that emerged in the wake of her passing. The idea that Diana could have been expecting a child fueled sensationalist headlines and led to heated public debate about the potential motives and circumstances surrounding the accident. However, the official autopsy report directly addressed and ultimately dispelled these rumors. A detailed examination of Princess Diana's reproductive organs revealed no physical signs of pregnancy. Additionally, a thorough analysis of her blood hormone levels confirmed there were no pregnancy-related hormonal changes typically present in expectant mothers. This dual-layered approach to the examination left no room for doubt regarding the absence of pregnancy. The confirmation provided by the autopsy report was significant in debunking one of the most persistent and emotionally charged rumors tied to Diana's death. By laying these speculations to rest, the findings helped shift the public focus away from unverified theories and back to the documented facts of the case. Despite the widespread circulation of false narratives, the autopsy's conclusions reinforce the reality that Princess Diana's death was a result of a tragic accident, not a larger orchestrated event. 5. Injuries sustained. Princess Diana's autopsy report presented a detailed and harrowing account of the catastrophic injury she suffered in the tragic Paris car crash. The report meticulously outlined the extent of the trauma her body endured, shedding light on the sheer violence of the impact. One of the most critical injuries was a severe concussion, indicating that Diana's head had sustained a powerful blow, likely as a result of her body being thrown forward during the collision. This head injury alone was cause for concern, but it was only part of the larger picture of the widespread damage to her body. Multiple fractures were documented, including breaks in her ribs, collarbone, and arms. These injuries painted a grim image of the force exerted on her frame as the car collided with the tunnel's pillar. The fractures were consistent with the kind of blunt trauma that occurs when the body is thrust against hard surfaces at high speed, highlighting the intensity of the crash. Beyond the external damage, the report emphasized the extent of internal injuries, particularly in the chest area. The most devastating internal injury was the rupture of a pulmonary vein, leading to massive internal bleeding, a condition known as hemothorax. Blood had filled the space between Diana's lungs and chest wall, compressing her lungs and making it nearly impossible for her to breathe properly. This injury, coupled with extensive bruising and bleeding around her heart and major blood vessels, ultimately led to her death despite the medical efforts to save her. The autopsy findings not only illustrated the magnitude of the crash, but also underscored the near impossibility of survival given the severe internal trauma. Even with prompt medical intervention, the damage inflicted upon her vital organs and circulatory system proved insurmountable. 6. Timing of death. The autopsy report revealed that Princess Diana was still alive when first responders arrived at the scene of the crash in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. Despite enduring catastrophic injuries, she displayed faint signs of life, prompting emergency services to act swiftly in an attempt to save her. She was immediately extracted from the wreckage and transported to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital for urgent medical intervention. However, the report underscored the severity of her condition, particularly a ruptured pulmonary vein near her heart. This injury led to massive internal bleeding, a factor that made her survival exceedingly unlikely, even with the fastest medical response. The extent of damage to critical organs suggested that her fate may have been sealed from the moment of impact. While medical professionals fought to stabilize her, the autopsy findings indicated that the chances of saving Princess Diana were minimal. The report acknowledged that even if treatment had been administered more rapidly at the scene, the odds of survival were incredibly slim due to the nature and location of her internal injuries. This detail has been the subject of ongoing debate and public scrutiny, with some questioning whether improvements in the emergency response or faster transport to the hospital could have altered the outcome. Nevertheless, the autopsy findings suggested that, tragically, no realistic medical intervention could have fully reversed the fatal damage sustained in the crash. The revelation that Princess Diana survived the initial impact but succumbed later added a deeply emotional layer to the tragedy. It left many wondering if there might have been a brief yet fleeting window where a different outcome could have been possible, contributing to the enduring heartbreak and speculation surrounding her untimely death. 7. Impact and speed. The autopsy report on Princess Diana offered significant insights into the tremendous force and speed that contributed to the fatal crash. The findings aligned closely with the physical evidence gathered from the crash site, painting a vivid picture of the violence of the collision. Diana's injuries, as well as those sustained by Dodi Fayed and the vehicle's driver, Henry Paul, were consistent with the kind of trauma seen in high-speed impacts. The report detailed how the sheer force of the crash had caused widespread damage to the vehicle's structure, further emphasizing the brutal nature of the accident. Experts analyzing the crash site and reconstructing the events leading up to the collision estimated that the Mercedes was traveling between 65 and 70 miles per hour, 104 to 113 kilometers per hour, at the moment of impact. This was significantly above the speed limit for the narrow Paris tunnel where the crash occurred. The report indicated that this excessive speed, combined with the loss of control, made the collision inevitable and catastrophic. The extent of the damage to the car's front and passenger compartments further supported this assessment. The crumpled front end, shattered windshield, and twisted frame all testified to the magnitude of the forces involved. Diana's injuries, particularly the fatal rupture of the pulmonary vein, reflected the rapid deceleration and immense pressure exerted on her body as the vehicle came to a sudden stop. The report's conclusions about the speed and impact not only clarified the physical mechanics of the crash, but also reinforced the tragic inevitability of the outcome. The combination of high velocity, failure to wear seat belts, and collision with a fixed structure left little chance for survival, highlighting the devastating consequences of even brief lapses in caution under dangerous conditions. 8. Unusual delays. The autopsy report, alongside subsequent investigations, revealed unusual delays in the emergency response following the tragic crash that claimed Princess Diana's life. These delays have been the subject of significant controversy and speculation over the years, prompting questions about whether they may have influenced the outcome. One of the most debated aspects was the time taken for the ambulance to reach the hospital. Despite the relatively short distance between the crash site in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel and Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, reports indicated that the journey took approximately 43 minutes, longer than expected. French emergency services adhered to protocols that prioritized stabilizing patients at the scene before transport, believing that moving severely injured individuals too quickly could worsen their condition. Consequently, the ambulance traveled at a reduced speed to minimize further trauma, stopping several times along the way to ensure Diana's condition remained stable. Critics, however, have questioned whether this prolonged roadside care and slow transport inadvertently contributed to Princess Diana's death. Some experts have argued that had she received more immediate surgical intervention, her chances of survival, though slim, might have improved. The nature of her injuries, particularly the ruptured pulmonary vein, required urgent internal surgery, leading some to speculate that a faster arrival at the hospital could have increased the likelihood of saving her life. Additionally, scrutiny extended to the initial response at the crash site. Some have suggested that Princess Diana remained trapped in the wreckage longer than necessary, delaying critical first aid efforts. Questions were also raised regarding whether the decision to transport Diana by ambulance instead of airlift was the best course of action, given the severity of her internal injuries. While the autopsy report did not explicitly address these procedural concerns, it did provide a detailed timeline of events that underscored the crucial minutes between the crash and her hospital arrival. This timeline highlighted the narrow window in which life-saving measures could have potentially made a difference, further fueling debate over whether different emergency protocols might have altered the outcome. 9. Toxicology reports. 8. Unusual delays. The autopsy report and subsequent investigations into the death of Princess Diana highlighted unusual delays in the emergency response, raising significant questions and speculation over the years. One of the most contentious issues was the time taken to transport Princess Diana to the hospital. Reports indicated that the ambulance, though arriving promptly at the crash site, took a notably prolonged route through the streets of Paris to reach Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital. French emergency medical protocols at the time emphasized providing intensive treatment on site before moving a patient, a practice intended to stabilize patients with critical injuries. This resulted in the ambulance taking a slower, more cautious approach during transport, including multiple stops for additional medical interventions. Critics have questioned whether this protocol was the most appropriate for Princess Diana given the nature and severity of her internal injuries, particularly the rupture of her pulmonary vein. Medical experts have debated whether a more direct, expedited route to the hospital might have provided a better chance for her survival. While some argue that the extended response time may have contributed to her death, others emphasize that her injuries were so catastrophic that survival was unlikely even with immediate surgical intervention. Further concerns were raised about the initial response at the crash site. While paramedics acted swiftly to extract Princess Diana from the wreckage and begin treatment, questions linger about whether more could have been done during those critical first moments to stabilize her condition. Notably, Diana was reportedly conscious and speaking following the crash, leading some to believe that quicker action might have made a difference. The autopsy report itself did not offer direct commentary on these delays, but provided a timeline of events that underscored the roughly 90-minute window between the crash and Diana's arrival at the hospital. This timeline has been a focal point for critics and conspiracy theorists alike, fueling debates over whether those minutes were wasted opportunities or unavoidable circumstances given the severity of her injuries. Toxicology reports. In addition to examining the emergency response, Princess Diana's autopsy included toxicology tests which offered a clear picture of her physical state at the time of the crash. These tests confirmed that Diana had no drugs or alcohol in her system that could have impaired her judgment or contributed to the accident. This finding was significant, as it helped dispel rumors or speculation suggesting that Diana's actions might have played a role in the tragedy. The absence of any impairing substances affirmed her role as an innocent victim, highlighting that her death was not the result of personal negligence or recklessness. The toxicology results also contrasted sharply with those of Henri Paul, the driver of the car, whose blood alcohol levels were found to be well above the legal limit. This disparity underscored the dangerous circumstances beyond Diana's control, reinforcing her tragic position as a victim in a situation shaped by external factors. Together, these findings provide a complex but critical understanding of the events surrounding Princess Diana's death. From the controversial delays in medical response to the clean toxicology report, the autopsy painted a picture of a life tragically cut short by forces beyond her own making. 10. Conspiracy theories. Despite the thorough and comprehensive nature of Princess Diana's autopsy report, it has remained a magnet for conspiracy theories over the years. While the report provided clear conclusions on the cause of her death, it failed to quell suspicions among those convinced that the events surrounding the crash were more complex than a tragic accident. Many conspiracy theorists have pointed to alleged inconsistencies, gaps, or ambiguous details within the report, suggesting these anomalies indicate foul play or a cover-up. Theories range from claims that Diana was deliberately targeted to suggestions that official records, including the autopsy, were manipulated to obscure the true cause of her death. Some speculate that powerful individuals or organizations had a vested interest in silencing Princess Diana, fueling narratives that her death was the result of a calculated effort rather than misfortune. The presence of Henri Paul's elevated blood alcohol levels, combined with reports of paparazzi trailing the vehicle, has led to further conjecture, with some alleging these elements were orchestrated to create conditions for the crash. Others question the delays in emergency response or claim missing surveillance footage from the Pont de l'Alma tunnel points to deliberate tampering. However, no credible evidence has ever emerged to substantiate these theories. Multiple official investigations, including the Operation Padgy inquiry, conducted by British authorities, meticulously reviewed the circumstances and reaffirmed that Princess Diana's death was a result of negligence and hazardous driving by Henri Paul, compounded by the lack of seatbelt use. The inquiry found no proof of unlawful killing or external interference. Despite the absence of verifiable proof, public fascination with Diana's life and legacy continues to fuel speculation. Her global influence, charisma, and the public's emotional connection to her untimely passing have left a void that many have sought to fill with alternative explanations. The persistence of these conspiracy theories underscores not only the public's enduring captivation with Princess Diana, but also the deep sense of collective grief that followed her death. To this day, her passing remains one of the most heavily scrutinized and discussed events of the late 20th century, highlighting the complex interplay between celebrity, tragedy, and public memory. 11th, brain injury. A critical revelation in Princess Diana's autopsy report was the identification of a severe brain injury sustained during the crash. The report highlighted that Diana suffered a significant concussion, a form of traumatic brain injury caused by the forceful and abrupt impact of the collision. In Diana's case, the violent nature of the crash caused her brain to shift and collide with the inner walls of her skull, leading to extensive bruising and damage to fragile brain tissue. The autopsy emphasized that this injury contributed substantially to the overall severity of her condition and played a pivotal role in her eventual passing. Concussions, while sometimes perceived as mild, can result in serious complications, particularly when coupled with additional trauma. Common symptoms include disorientation, confusion, and loss of consciousness, but in severe cases, concussions can lead to swelling, internal bleeding, and significant pressure on the brain. When left untreated or compounded by other injuries, these complications can become fatal. The report indicated that while Princess Diana initially showed signs of life at the scene, the extent of her internal head trauma made survival unlikely, even with rapid medical intervention. The concussion, combined with other critical injuries, created significant obstacles for first responders and medical teams working to stabilize her condition. The documentation of Diana's brain injury underscored the violent nature of the crash and the immense challenges medical professionals faced in addressing such catastrophic damage. It also provided further clarity on the medical reasons behind her tragic death, reinforcing that the combination of severe head trauma and internal bleeding made recovery virtually impossible. This aspect of the autopsy further dispelled speculation that Diana's death could have been prevented by external factors alone, highlighting the sheer force and devastation of the crash as the primary cause of her fatal injuries. 12th, detailed examination. Princess Diana's autopsy was conducted with exceptional detail and precision, reflecting both the high-profile nature of her death and the intense public and media scrutiny surrounding the case. Recognizing the global significance of the tragedy, authorities ensured that the examination was carried out by a team of highly experienced forensic pathologists and medical experts, all of whom were acutely aware of the gravity of their task. The autopsy was exhaustive and comprehensive, leaving no aspect of her condition undocumented. Every external and internal injury was meticulously recorded, with particular focus on the ruptured pulmonary vein, which was identified as the primary cause of death. The pathologist detailed not only the trauma to Princess Diana's chest and lungs, but also concussive injuries, fractures, and organ damage consistent with the violent nature of the crash. Additionally, the forensic team conducted a thorough analysis of her organs and tissue samples. This process involved cross-referencing findings with eyewitness accounts, crash site investigations, and medical reports to ensure that no detail was overlooked. The toxicology reports further reinforced the conclusions of the autopsy, confirming that Diana had no substances in her system that could have impaired her or contributed to the accident. Given the prominence of the case and the prevalence of conspiracy theories, the autopsy was subjected to an unprecedented level of scrutiny. Every detail was verified and re-verified, with examiners fully aware that the report would face intense public skepticism and forensic review for years to come. Any discrepancies or anomalies were rigorously investigated to ensure the final report provided a definitive and irrefutable account of Princess Diana's death. The meticulous nature of the autopsy was not merely procedural but reflected the immense responsibility shouldered by the forensic team. Their work was not only about determining the medical cause of death, but also about preserving historical accuracy and public trust. The resulting report stands as a testament to the professionalism and diligence of the experts involved, ensuring that every possible question surrounding Diana's final moments was addressed with the highest degree of integrity and care. 13. Press intrusion. Princess Diana's autopsy report highlighted the significant role press intrusion played in the tragic events leading up to her fatal crash. The findings painted a sobering picture of the relentless pursuit by paparazzi, which created a chaotic and dangerous situation on the streets of Paris that fateful night. Eyewitness testimony and physical evidence from the crash site revealed that the driver, Henri Paul, was attempting to outrun the pursuing photographers when he lost control of the vehicle. The high-speed chase, coupled with the aggressive tactics used by the paparazzi, was identified as a key contributing factor to the hazardous conditions that ultimately led to the accident. The report underscored the profound impact that constant media scrutiny and privacy violations had on Princess Diana throughout her life. It served as a stark reminder of the pressures and dangers that accompany public figures, particularly those as widely followed and adored as Diana. Beyond the personal tragedy, these findings reignited broader debates about the ethical boundaries of journalism and the moral responsibility of media organizations. Should the pursuit of a headline justify actions that place lives at risk? The inclusion of this element in the autopsy report strengthened calls for stricter regulations and increased accountability within the tabloid and paparazzi industries. In the aftermath of Diana's death, public outrage over the role of the press led to international reflection and some reforms in how celebrities and public figures are treated by the media. However, the report's acknowledgement of press involvement served as a haunting reminder of the devastating consequences that unchecked media intrusion can bring. 14. Witness testimonies. Princess Diana's autopsy report went beyond medical analysis by incorporating witness testimonies to create a more thorough and accurate account of the tragic events surrounding her death. These testimonies were drawn from multiple sources, including bystanders who witnessed the crash, first responders who arrived at the scene, and medical personnel involved in her treatment. The witness statements offered crucial insights into the immediate aftermath of the accident, shedding light on the chaotic environment, the urgent attempts to extract Princess Diana from the wreckage, and the medical interventions that followed. First responders recounted the challenges of navigating the crash site, describing the damage to the vehicle, and the delicate process of stabilizing Diana before transporting her to the hospital. Their accounts highlighted the tense atmosphere and the sense of urgency as paramedics fought to keep her alive. Medical personnel who treated Diana at Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital provided detailed testimonies about the extent of her injuries upon arrival, the surgical efforts made to stop internal bleeding, and the heartbreak when it became clear that her injuries were fatal. These testimonies painted a vivid picture of the extraordinary lengths the medical team went to in their attempt to save her life. Bystanders at the scene offered a different perspective, describing the moment of impact, the arrival of emergency services, and the growing crowd of media and onlookers. Their observations help clarify the timeline of events, corroborating the findings of investigators and debunking early conspiracy theories that suggested foul play or deliberate delays. The inclusion of these testimonies in the autopsy report was pivotal in addressing misinformation that circulated in the wake of the tragedy. Early rumors questioning the response time of paramedics, the condition of the car, and Diana's medical treatment were systematically countered by the credible first-hand accounts presented in the report. By integrating witness narratives with forensic evidence, the autopsy provided a balanced and human perspective on the incident, ensuring that Princess Diana's final moments were documented with both scientific rigor and emotional sensitivity. This approach not only strengthened the integrity of the investigation, but also honored the reality of the tragedy as experienced by those closest to the scene. 15th, medical documentation. Princess Diana's autopsy report was part of an extensive collection of medical documentation that detailed the critical hours following the crash. This comprehensive record encompassed the emergency response team's reports from the scene, as well as the thorough notes and charts compiled by hospital staff during her treatment. The documentation provided a time-stamped, meticulous account of the life-saving interventions and procedures administered to Princess Diana. It outlined the severity of her injuries, the treatments and medications used, and the moment-by-moment decisions made by the medical professionals entrusted with her care. By including this expansive body of medical records, the autopsy review process gained a holistic understanding of the challenges faced by the medical team. It allowed forensic experts to construct a detailed timeline of events, shedding light on the precise sequence of actions taken and highlighting any potential missed opportunities or areas where improvements in the response could have been made. This thorough medical documentation served as more than just a procedural necessity. It stood as a testament to the heroic efforts of first responders and hospital staff who fought valiantly to save Diana's life, despite the overwhelming odds. The records underscored the intensity and complexity of the situation, providing an unfiltered look at the dedication and skill of those who worked tirelessly in the aftermath of one of the most tragic moments in modern history. From the official findings that outlined the cause of death to the lingering controversies and conspiracy theories, Princess Diana's autopsy report remains a focal point of public fascination and debate. This report serves as a detailed yet contentious record of one of the most high-profile and tragic events in modern history, offering insights while raising questions that continue to spark curiosity and skepticism. We'd love to hear your perspective. Do you feel that the autopsy report and investigations provided a clear and definitive account of Princess Diana's death? Or do you believe there are still unresolved questions that demand further examination? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice is an essential part of keeping this important conversation alive. If you found this video informative and engaging, please take a moment to give it a like and share it with others who may find it equally compelling. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth videos exploring significant historical events and untold stories. Thank you for watching, and we can't wait to see you in our next video.